Hey, welcome to the Disability Law Show. John Scholes once again, along with Sivan Tumarkin. We are talking disability law. That's what we do every week here. You want to reach out anytime during the show or afterwards. Really simple. 1-855-821-5900. Help at disabilityrights.ca. And as you've been using for a little while, Sivan, and we probably will be for the near future anyway, covidrights.ca. There's tons of information about the coronavirus and how it affects you as well on that website. Today we're going to talk about here in just a bit 3 tactics long-term disability insurers sometimes use to make you give up the benefits they owe you. That is all coming up. We'll get to some phone calls from our live radio show that we do every week. But first, the week that was, pal. How are you?
I'm very good, John.
Good.
And again, it's been a very busy week dealing with insurance companies, helping people out there, answering their questions. Not just me. We have a full team here in Ontario and in British Columbia. We have offices throughout, and our firm is working very, very hard for people who've been laid off, who've been fired. You know, we do employment law, as many of our viewers know, and we do disability claims. We deal with long-term disability claims, fighting insurance companies. And the vast majority of lawyers that work on my team used to work for insurance companies in the past. In fact, I used to work for insurance companies, and so, you know, I've learned a lot through the years, and that's what we do here, John. We help people deal with long-term disability claims. Let me tell you about something that is really bothering me. Remember, when COVID first hit, and when we started hearing a lot about it here in Canada, I think it was at the end of February, early March. One of the things that I remember talking about to many people, and you as well, is the fact that, you know, COVID aside, the psychological impact of this pandemic and social distancing and everything that's associated with it is going to take a huge mental toll on Canadians. And now we're starting to see more and more articles, people talking about psychologists, psychiatrists warning about this, you know, huge wave of claims, of issues that Canadians are going to be, you know, reeling from for months and years to come due to the psychological effects of COVID-19. Why is this relevant to what we're dealing with? Because many people who develop psychological illnesses, let's say depression, phobias, anxieties, things like that, end up trying to apply for short-term or long-term disability. And my fear was that insurance companies would not step up to the plate and cover those kinds of claims, even though they should. And you know, John, I got to tell you, some insurance companies are better than others, some adjusters are better than others, but my fears are slowly being realized. I am seeing more and more, and I'm hearing more and more from individuals contacting me, not just from BC and Ontario, but across the country. Just today, I was communicating with several people from Saskatchewan, from Newfoundland, from a variety of places, again, including Ontario and BC, who have told me that their long-term disability claims are being denied by their insurance companies because the insurance companies are saying we're not covering COVID-related illnesses, or we're not covering psychological issues, or we're not covering anything to do with this pandemic. This is absolute nonsense. It's nonsense. And before you take what the insurance company is giving you at face value, you should call us, and you should check with us if in fact you should be paid. Because, John, you know, one of the individuals that I spoke with earlier this week, from BC, actually, that person is 53 years old, a restaurant manager, and he was denied his long-term disability claim because he's developed these now psychological symptoms because of COVID. And the insurance company said, no, we're not covering you. The reason you're not working is because the restaurant is closed. Yeah, the restaurant is closed, but he's now also developed psychological issues and mental illness as a result of COVID. And he has a psychologist to back him up. So I have a letter from this person's doctor and the psychologist who say that this person is now disabled from working. And despite that, the insurance company said that they're not going to cover him. We're going to get involved, and you're going to see how quickly they back off that position. Insurance companies understand one thing as far as I'm concerned, and that's force. It's pressure applied on them. And listen, it's a numbers game for them. If they deny 10 people legitimate claims, and 9 out of 10 people take what they say at face value and walk away, imagine how much money is left in the insurance company's pockets. So if you know someone in that situation, or if you're in that situation, or if you have any questions about your long-term disability claim, please reach out to us. John's going to give you the number, the email address, the website. Get in touch with us. It costs nothing to speak with us and get the advice you need.
Do you think part of that reason is because, once again, to an insurance company, a mental disability does not show up on an X-ray or a CAT scan or a CT scan like a broken hip?
I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
I think that there is a real prejudice against mental illnesses, mental disability, anything to do with the psychological aspect that we're dealing with. I think there is a prejudice out there, partly because you can't see it on an MRI necessarily or an X-ray or whatever, partly because, and think about this for a second, whether you're dealing with travel insurance claims, whether you're dealing with any other kinds of claims right now, especially disability claims, there is going to be a tsunami of those claims coming to insurance companies. They are trying to stop the floodgates from opening, but here's the thing. They cannot legally deny your claim if you are disabled from working and if you have a legitimate illness, if you are legitimately unable to work because of your disability, psychological, mental, physical, or a combination of those. If you cannot work and your doctors confirm you cannot work, they should approve you. And if they don't approve you, don't waste your time appealing those decisions. Contact us immediately and we will help you.
All right, Sivan mentioned reaching out several different ways. Yep, sure, we put it up on the screen all the time, but 1-855-821-5900, help@disabilityrights.ca, or just shorten that down to disabilityrights.ca is the website. There as well, once you're on the website, you can catch one of our long-running radio shows. From it, we pull the phone calls from those radio shows, play them back here. Sivan, I got your first call for the day right now.
My wife has been on long-term disability for just over a year for multiple sclerosis. She can't do her job. She was a PSW, and her doctors have told us the same thing. The insurance company sent her to see this doctor who said that she's not disabled enough and that she can go back to modified work. Her doctors disagree, so do we. We're afraid that her benefits will end soon because of what this insurance doctor said, and so we don't know what to do now.
John, I mean, doesn't that just infuriate you? You're talking about MS. It's a serious, serious disease. This person's wife, her doctors have confirmed that she's unable to go back to work, but the insurance company hired their own doctor to provide an opinion that gives now the insurance company the excuse to potentially cut her off benefits. And I think that they have legitimate fears here. When an insurance company asks you or tells you, frankly, to go see one of their doctors or one of their assessors, think about why they're doing that. They're doing that because they are going to be paying someone to look at your file, potentially meet with you or assess you. Now, because of the pandemic, could be via Zoom or some other remote way of communicating. But they're hoping that they're going to get an opinion from that doctor that they're paying for. They're hoping to get an opinion that will allow them to say, you are not disabled enough. What does that mean? You're not disabled enough, you should go back to work. I mean, that is just the way our system is structured. It's unfortunate, but they do have a right to send you to those doctors. So, to answer this gentleman's question, the fact that his wife has MS, she's been on disability for a while now, her doctors confirm in writing that she should continue being on disability because she can't work, that's good enough for me. I would want to communicate to the insurance company adjuster, John, that if they dare cut her off, they're going to get a legal claim served on them the next day. Because again, I'll tell you from experience, the only thing insurance companies understand is force. It's somebody pressing against them, and not just a regular individual out there. I mean, think about who they're picking on here. They're picking on, the most vulnerable, the people who are disabled, especially now during this pandemic, when so many people are out of a job. When the whole world is turned upside down, this is when they're choosing to do this. It's completely inappropriate. There are ways to fight back. And this is what I want to tell people out there. If you're listening, I'm not asking you to fight back. I'm asking you to pick up the phone or call me or email me or go to our website to get the information you need to understand what your rights are. And John, some people will say, well, it's self-serving, Sivan, you are a lawyer, you want people to call you. Don't call me. Call another disability lawyer that knows what they're doing. I'm okay with that, as long as you don't simply walk away from your rights, and as long as you simply don't give up the money that is owed to you. And John, in some instances, when I've spoken to people, and advised them, I've calculated that if they had walked away, they could be leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table, or rather in the insurance company's pocket. and that's just not right. And this is what I want people to understand. You have rights. Simply learn about those rights. It doesn't cost anything to learn what your rights are. And frankly, if at that point you want us to help you fight the insurance company, we'll be more than happy to do so.
Oh, it still amazes me always this situation we've seen over and over again, that the insurance companies will send you to, possibly in person, maybe not, to see one of their doctors one time, and you've been dealing with your own medical team for 10 years, but somehow they think that's going to hold water. They don't have any history on you, just a one visit or even a paper consultation. It just seems like it's weak, really.
It is weak, but they're looking for an excuse.
Yeah.
They're looking for something. And, you know, sometimes they're doctors, or by the way, sometimes they're not doctors. They're other practitioners. Yeah. And sometimes they don't even see you. Sometimes the adjuster will call you or communicate to you by email or letter saying, we've had this person so-and-so look over your file. It's called a paper review. They haven't even talked to you. They haven't done anything your family doctor has done, or any of the specialists that are treating you have done. And you're right, in helping you potentially for months, if not years. So how is it that the insurance company can rely on those select opinions against all of the medical, advice and opinions and letters that your doctors are writing? How is it the insurance company simply relies on that specific person that they hired to cut you off? Well, because they can. Because they can, and because they assume, they play the odds that you will walk away, that you'll think that somehow the person they hired has more qualifications, or that what they say is more important than what your doctors say. No. What your doctors say is vastly more important. And think about this. If you were a judge and you saw someone coming up in front of you, and on the one side it was that person's treating doctors, and on the other hand there was the one person that the insurance company paid to get an opinion from, and they had different opinions, who would you listen to? Yeah. To the treating doctors or the hired gun? To me, it's a no-brainer. And I think most judges see through that. And by the way, we have cases where insurance companies have tried to argue that their own doctor should be listened to. And in many, many cases, judges simply don't buy it. Yeah. So you shouldn't buy it, and you should fight back.
We'll take a short break, and coming up here, we get the 3 tactics long-term disability insurers sometimes use to make you give up the benefits they owe you. That's on the way, so stick around. Lots more Disability Law Show is on the way.
Lost your job. They only gave you 2 weeks of severance per year worked. But where can you find out what you're really owed?
I'm going to severancepaycalculator.com.
Find out how much you're owed right now. severancepaycalculator.com.
You've been denied long-term disability. You think you're powerless, but you have a lot more power than you think. I'll tell you a secret. It's a numbers game for the insurance company. They're betting on you walking away from money that they owe you. Don't make that mistake. We resolve disability claims all the time. We force insurers to pay what they owe. We're in your corner.
Call Sivan and his team, 1-855-821-5900, or go to disabilityrights.ca. You lost your job. They said they had a good reason, but you think you've been wrongfully dismissed. Now what are you going to do?
I'm going to employmentlawyer.ca.
Always check with the employment lawyer first at employmentlawyer.ca.
Hey, welcome back. Disability Law Show. John Scholes and Sivan Tumarkin. We are talking about disability law, and this particular segment, Sivan, we want to talk about 3 tactics. We in the essence of time, we shortened it down from 300, but 3 tactics long-term disability insurers sometimes use to make you give up the benefits they owe you. First one is this: not nice. They bully you and act like they don't believe you or your doctors.
Yeah, and I've seen this happen, and again, it's very, very troubling when I hear people, and sometimes, by the way, John, I don't even hear from the disabled individuals themselves. It's a family member or a concerned friend that calls me that says, look, I have a friend, I have a family member, my daughter, my husband, my wife, whatever, and they're dealing with this long-term disability adjuster that's just aggressive. They're condescending, they're very, very difficult to deal with. And look, that's unfortunately a tactic that I have seen adjusters use. They think that by making you not want to deal with them, you're going to give up on your claim. It's a tactic. Now, some people are just bad people, and some people do it as a strategy, as a way to, shake you off claim. And in some instances, they're successful. In fact, I've had situations where family members had contacted me about a situation like that, and the people they were contacting me on their behalf, those disabled people actually gave up on their claims. And I had to have a long chat with them to say, look, as soon as I get involved, as soon as my team gets involved, you don't have to deal with the adjuster anymore. We are the ones who take over the phone calls and the emails and the letters. As soon as you have a lawyer representing you with your disability claim, the insurance company cannot touch you. They cannot communicate with you. You can focus on getting better. But just this is unfortunate, and you're right, there's a ton of tactics insurance companies utilize on a daily basis to try and get people to give up money that is owed to them under the insurance contract. Unfortunately, bullying you is one of those tactics. I think, by the way, just as a point, if that happens to you, first of all, reach out to me, but document everything in writing. You know, request a different adjuster from the manager at the company, and communicate in writing to the manager that this is what you're experiencing, and make sure you communicate that to your own doctors to explain how your anxiety levels are going through the roof because of this behavior by the adjuster. So this is all important. You have to document all these things. You can't just complain about it. You have to do something about it.
Number two, second tactic they use to stop money they owe you, benefits coming your way. They tell you that without a formal diagnosis, you can't get LTD, which of course we know everything about the humankind body and all illnesses, so why would they?
Absolutely. We know everything about medicine. This is why we don't have a pandemic right now.
That's right. Yeah,
Listen,
no kidding.
Everybody understands that there's limitations to science, limitations to medicine. As much as we are sophisticated, as much as we have the MRIs and the CT scans and all this amazing medical science and equipment and brains out there, we don't know everything. And you know, you can have a disability without having a formal diagnosis. In fact, it's not uncommon for the more complex types of illnesses out there. They can be neurological, they can be psychological, there can be a whole different array of disabilities, to have different doctors give different opinions as to the diagnosis. So just because you don't have a label on a condition doesn't mean that that condition that you do have does not disable you. And I have seen it time and time again when insurance companies deny legitimate disability claims because they say that there is no diagnosis. What they're saying is, we don't know what to call it, so we're going to not cover you. They can't do that. They cannot do that. There is no LTD policy out there that I have seen yet, maybe they exist, John, but I have not seen, and I've looked at thousands, that specifies that in order to get LTD, you have to have a label, you have to have a diagnosis, an actual title to your disability. No, all that the LTD policy requires is that you show that your disability prevents you from working, and you have to, of course, explain how, your doctors have to explain how, but the label is not necessary to qualify for LTD. And if your insurance company denies your claim on that basis because there is no label attaching to your disability, you should be contacting us ASAP. We can help you.
Another tactic they use to give up benefits they owe you is this one. We get this all the time on the radio show and the phone calls. They mislead you thinking that your benefits end after 2 years. And this has nothing to do with you being 63 years old either. You could be 40.
We can do shows on this, just on this topic, John. Yeah. So again, let's just refresh the memory of those who have seen the show and are new to the show now, who need this introduction. Within the long-term disability context, to qualify for long-term disability for the first 2 years, most LTD policies require you to be disabled from performing the essential tasks of your own occupation, okay? Own occupation, whatever your job is. Beyond the 2-year mark, the test changes. It now becomes any occupation for which you're suited for by training, education, or experience. So the test becomes a bit more difficult to meet. But most people, when they're told your benefits are going to be up soon because the 2-year mark is coming, they're not told about this change in definition. They are being led to believe, you know, intentionally or unintentionally by the adjuster, that their benefits simply end at that 2-year mark. And there are very, very few LTD policies out there that don't take you to age 65. You know, so you're right, John. I get people who are 40 years old, 20 years old, 30 years old, 61 years old, who are telling me, my adjuster said that I am reaching that 2-year mark, my benefits are going to end. No, no, no. You should ask, why are they ending? Why? Am I not entitled to further benefits, given the fact that I cannot work in any occupation because of my disability? You need to let them tell you in writing exactly why they're cutting you off. And then you need to reach out to me so I can tell you if that's legitimate or not. Because in many, many instances, John, people are told the benefits will end at the 2-year mark. And guess what? They're actually entitled to benefits far beyond that. Very, very important that you don't leave money on the table.
Reaching out, by the way, as we go to break here, 1-855-821-5900, disabilityrights.ca. And coming up, what to do if you don't think you can afford to start a legal claim against your insurance. We'll tackle that after a break. Stick around.
You were being harassed, and when you said something about it, you're the one who lost your job. Now what are you going to do?
I'm going to employmentlawyer.ca.
Always check with the employment lawyer first at employmentlawyer.ca.
Insurance companies deny long-term disability claims all the time. They give lots of excuses. Don't give up. I've seen it all. They've ignored your doctors, they've ignored you. You're angry and you're frustrated. But there's hope. We resolve disability claims all the time. We force insurers to pay what they owe. We're in your corner.
Call Sivan and his team, 1-855-821-5900, or go to disabilityrights.ca. You thought you had a secure job. You didn't see it coming. Now what do you do?
I'm going to employmentlawyer.ca.
Always check with the employment lawyer first at employmentlawyer.ca.
All right, welcome back, Disability Law Show. Appreciate you sticking around for the half hour. You want to reach out anytime, disabilityrights.ca is a good place to start, the website. And while you're there, you can find our long-running radio show. And from those shows, we get a ton of phone calls each week. Sivan, we play them back here and we talk about them. Phone call number 2 for today's show is coming up right now.
My son is 32. He suffered from depression since his early 20s, but he was mostly able to manage this with medication. He had a small business that he had to shut down last year. He applied for disability insurance but was denied. He was seeing a psychiatrist before COVID-19, and he's now having virtual sessions covered by OHIP. There's no way he can work right now, and his psychiatrist agrees. He's going to appeal, but I've listened to your show and told him he shouldn't because it's a waste of time. But he doesn't want to start a legal claim because he doesn't have money to pay for a lawyer. Are you able to help at all? Can you at least talk to him?
Yeah, I absolutely would be more than happy to speak with your son. And, you know, John, that's a big concern for people, obviously, who are off work. They don't have any money coming in. They've been cut off or denied long-term disability, just like this lady's son. And they're concerned about what is it going to cost to hire a lawyer. Well, listen, when it comes to long-term disability claims, when it comes to everything my team does, you're not going to be charged a cent until we're able to recover money from the insurance company. In fact, we actually don't get paid until we get a check from the insurance company. That's how we get paid, from the insurance company. So in a way, we're in the same boat. And frankly, many lawyers who do what I do, that's how they charge. But John, that's not always the case. And, you know, you and I have talked before on the radio. We've heard from people, you know, after the TV shows, people have contacted me who said, look, I went to a lawyer who said they know something about long-term disability, and they charged me a $5,000 retainer or $10,000 or whatever, and it went nowhere. Well, you know what? That's not the way that this is done. Certainly not the way that my firm operates when it comes to long-term disability claims. Don't worry about that. Now, with respect to this lady's son, again, look, I mean, this is an example, John, of what we're seeing here during this pandemic. Insurance companies willy-nilly denying claims when they should not. When you have the medical opinions, the individuals treating these people who are suffering, whether it's from pre-pandemic illnesses and injuries or illnesses and injuries that have developed because of the pandemic and social isolation, and insurance companies, despite those medical opinions that are being given to them, are denying these claims. They should not be denying these claims. They shouldn't. Well, what do you do about that? You start a legal claim. I know her son is afraid about the legal cost, but he doesn't have to worry about it. The one thing he should be afraid of, as far as I'm concerned, and based on my experience, is actually appealing those denials. And that's something that we can do a whole show on, John, and I know we've spoken about this endlessly. These appeals that people engage in after they're denied or cut off long-term disability are useless. Why they're useless? Because they are a tool in the insurance company's toolbox. What is an appeal at the end of the day? It's not a formal process. There's no third party that looks at the new documentation. You're basically re-asking the insurance company to reconsider their denial of your claim. what is their incentive to approve your claim if they denied it illegitimately the first time around? And that's why I see people who have appealed once, twice, 3 times, have wasted a year or 2 years. Then they've come to us and we've been able to resolve their claim within weeks or months at most. And they say to me, you know, had I known this at the beginning, then I would have been able to get paid much sooner, and that's in fact the case, you know. And so that's what I want to let this lady know, and she can tell that to her son. He doesn't have anything to worry about in terms of paying up front. There's nothing up front. We do not charge a cent unless we're able to force the insurance company to pay, to pay you what you're owed.
Well, she's smart. She said, don't waste your time with the appeal.
Yep.
Plus, if you keep appealing, you're going to, that 2-year time limit's ticking away, right?
It is. And people need to understand that you have 2 years under the limitations legislation, both in Ontario and British Columbia. You have 2 years. Now, with the pandemic now, there's been, some murkiness with respect to the limitation periods. Mm-hmm. Are they suspended? Are they not? Don't take a chance, okay? The first denial you got, that's when you should start counting the 2 years.
Right.
So if you were denied for the first time on January 1st, 2020, you have until January 1st, 2022 to start a legal claim, not an appeal, a legal claim. And if you fail to do that, you are at risk with the insurance company laughing all the way to the bank because your money's in their pockets.
Let's get to an email with the remaining time here. help@disabilityrightsca. Aisha says, my boyfriend was hurt in an accident that happened while he was on break from work about a year ago. He can't use his right arm and leg now, and when he applied for long-term disability, he was rejected because the insurance company said that he should be getting workers' compensation. But he applied for WSIB and was denied. He's very depressed now and doesn't know what to do since he was rejected by both WSIB and his disability insurer. Can you help?
Yes, Aisha, we can definitely help. And again, this happens quite often, John, where you have people who are injured either on the job or through the job or whatever happens. They apply for WSIB, workers' compensation in Ontario, or WCB in British Columbia, and they're rejected. And they apply for long-term disability, and they're rejected by their insurance company because the insurance company says, no, you should be going to workers' compensation. And the person says, yeah, but I was denied. So here you have somebody who falls through the cracks. And this is the problem with our system. You have all these major entities, workers' compensation, insurance company. If you're dealing with a car accident, it's even more complicated. You have other insurance companies that you have to deal with. And what we do here on this show is we help the little guy, right? I mean, that's really the key here, because you have rights. If workers' compensation denied Aisha's boyfriend's claim, then the long-term disability insurer must pay up. Period. There is no exception here. Now, if workers' compensation down the road reverses their position, well, guess what? The long-term disability insurer is potentially entitled to reimbursement of whatever workers' compensation pays. You can't get both at the same time, right? That's like a double recovery. That's fine. But he can't be denied by both. That's not right. It's not right and it's not fair. So we can make this right. We can force the insurance company to pay him what he's owed. And if he wants to appeal the workers' comp decision, that's his choice. I would not necessarily tell him to do so, but that's his choice. But if he does that and they reverse their position, well, then we'll deal with the insurance company. The point is this. Someone is going to be paying Aisha's boyfriend. He's unable to work. He is disabled from working. We have medical support for that disability. There is no reason why workers' compensation keeps money that otherwise would be payable to him, and that the long-term disability insurer keeps the money that they owe him, in their pockets. There's no reason for that. So that's the messaging here. You have rights.
About a minute to go here, pal. Tell us again, just as you started the show, with the way legal things are, even in the COVID pandemic, right? A lot of it's mental too. A lot of it is mental, absolutely, and we're going to see this in the months and years to come. If you have a long-term disability, if you've developed psychological illness, depression, anxiety, PTSD, whatever that is, and legitimately you're unable to work because of it, and your doctors are confirming that you can't work because of it, apply. If you have short-term and or long-term disability, apply. If you get denied for any reason, reach out to us. We will tell you the truth. We'll tell you if the denial is legitimate or not. And if it's not, if the insurance company must pay you, we will tell you how to force them to pay you. Don't give up your rights, and don't give up on the money that's owed to you. Thanks for joining us for another week of the Disability Law Show. You'll want to reach out now. It's really simple. Again, terminationquestions.com. You can go there. You can go to pocketemploymentlawyer.ca. There's a disability section there. Want to mention that. And also, as always, the email is key. help@disabilityrights.ca, covidrights.ca. Reach out. Don't sit back. Make sure you contact Sivan and his crew. And we'll catch you next time on the Disability Law Show.